Welcome to the WanderLearn Show. I'm your host, Francis Tapon. I'm here with Michael Zervos, who is just a few dozen countries away from being the fastest person to travel to every country in the world. Welcome back, Michael.
Francis, nice to see you again. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, you're in Caracas, Venezuela.
I am.
And
Yeah.
and you're setting a new record for like spending like 5 days in a country or something like that.
It's close. I mean, I think the last time I spent this long, it was voluntarily. It might have been in I spent 5 days in Japan. I spent 5 days in the Marshall Islands, but that wasn't for want. I was stuck on that island because of the flight situation. So it's not often where I'm in a place for this long.
Why did you stay 5 days in Japan?
Well, I just wanted to go there ever since I was a kid. So I justified it by saying, you know what? I'm going to make it up in other ways. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah, it is. It is a very unique, I don't like that saying. It is a unique country.
Yeah.
It really stands out. I don't know is there any other country besides Japan that really is such an oddball and it's hard to compare to anything else?
An oddball? I mean, you know as good as me. I think. I mean,
I've never been to Turkmenistan. Some people say that's kind of, and North Korea I've never been to. So I imagine
yeah,
those two are kind of
I-
oddballs.
they are. They are. Yeah. I mean, there are some that kind of float to the top of my head as like this, like indelible, like you're there when you're dropped there. Turkmenistan, Ashgabat is like a perfect example of that. I think maybe North Korea, you may not know exactly where you are and you dropped everywhere, but there isn't many countries like that. I don't know, like for me, Madagascar is like a very, very unique, like very biodiverse, very facially interesting. Like they're neither here nor there people. They just I don't know. They look Malagasy, unlike anything else. But I don't know. I'd have to think about that. Whether there's like a couple of those countries that just they immediately tell you, yeah, this is me.
Yeah, you can't confuse it for anything else.
Hmm.
So go to the upper right hand corner for those watching on YouTube and click on the video or go into the description to find out my other interviews with Michael and go to that page where I list them all. But to summarize, you are on a path to being the fastest person to travel to all the countries. Now, you're not going ridiculously fast, as we just discussed. There are some countries you loiter around for several days, some of them forced because of flights, but other times not. Tell us where you're at as of today, which is April 8th, 2025. How many countries do you have left? 20 something?
Yeah, I have 23 as of today. It'll be 22 tomorrow eventually as I get, well, actually, it'll be in 2 days while I actually touch down in Trinidad. But in any case, yeah, it's been a year and 2.5 months into my travel. I left January 17th and been traveling for quite a long time. I'm in Caracas right now. My flight was canceled. Actually, both of my connection flight and the flight that I was supposed to take to get to Curacao was canceled. So I would have been screwed. I would have been stuck on either Curacao or I was stuck here. So it's just, I don't know, one or the other. But yeah, that's
How
kind of
many
where I'm at.
times has a flight that is pretty critical to your to your objective been canceled?
It hasn't happened often, which is very fortunate because there's been a lot of risky countries. And what I mean to say is that countries where there's not a lot of flights in and out of them. So if I miss that, then my very finely tuned clockwork of countries, will cascade into destruction, just like a domino effect, where I have to figure out a way to catch up to that because I can't skip countries. So it doesn't happen that often. I think, I missed a.
Palau was one of them. Palau.
Pa- Um, Palau, I had a delay,
No,
but
but that I remember you saying that that was a linchpin to a bunch of like a
oh,
cascading effect, like
well,
a Jenga tower. That if you remove that
yes.
one connection, then the whole thing collapses.
Yes, exactly. So that was like I had to get to Palau exactly at that time, and if I didn't, then everything else would have suffered because, I needed to go exactly from one country to the next without backtracking, or at least efficiently as possible. So there were some countries where I would just be in on Tuesday, out on Thursday, and that was the only flight that you would ever have in and out of that country to get to the next country. The countries like Tuvalu, I mean, Kiribati is another difficult one. I mean,
These are all in the Pacific Ocean, by the way.
Yeah. Micronesia, Marshall Islands. There are ways to get to them if you want to backtrack, but then that's just not efficient. It's extremely expensive in the way of, one-way $1,000 tickets. So you just don't really want to do that.
Right, absolutely. So your how many days do you need to visit these 22, 23 countries left? How many do you have to in order to still beat the record?
Well, I mean, the record is 554 days, so that would sit me somewhere in June if I was going to break it by just like one day. But I have a number in my head that I am very fond of, just because I like math.
666?
No, that would not break the record. That would be a great number for me to end on in so many different ways. But no, that would.
Pi 3.14.
Yeah, no, I'm past that anyways, but there is a number in my head that I like and I'm trying to target that. And there shouldn't be too much in the way of stopping because I do have a couple more buffer zones. Like I've padded Mexico by a day, I've padded Dominican Republic by a day. So there's a little bit of buffer room, but I'd like to spend 3 days in Mexico. I'd like to spend 3 days in Dominican. So let's hope that everything works out okay.
Are they all these 23 in the Americas?
They are, yeah. So
Okay.
what if you imagine the map in your head? I was going up to Trinidad from Venezuela and then down back to Latin America to Suriname and Guyana, which don't have very easy flights in and out. So that was like the better option. And then I will be snaking my way up the little trail of the Caribbean, up through all of the Caribbean, and then going to Panama and then going up Central America.
That's going to be exciting. Okay, so no major hiccups. I remember when we last talked, we were worried about North Korea, Sudan,
Oh yeah.
and looked like those tough nuts were cracked. You did it.
Yeah. I mean, I know you were really encouraging about this. You were like, well, there's going to be one way to get into Sudan. Like
Right.
there's one. With North Korea, that was the thing that was just like totally out of my hand. I just
Right.
didn't know how to get in and out of that. There were Russian tours that were going in and out way before Westerners were allowed to go in, but no Western tour groups were permitted to go. And then suddenly I was on a flight to Sudan with another woman who she had like one more country to go before she broke the record, or not broke the record until she went to 193, right? And her last one was North Korea. So she was monitoring very, very carefully. And we were boarding the flight together. This Italian woman, she's like, "Oh my gosh, Michael." And she turned the phone to me. She's like, "It's open." I'm like, "Holy shit." I was frantically typing a message to the tour company that I went with, Choreo, said, "Hey, get me in on the first one. Whatever it takes, I will pack my bags. I will go there." And yeah, I sent it. And it was about 2 weeks later that they finally figured things out and they initiated the first tour. And I was within the first ad hoc tour group that had been there in 5 years.
Wow, that's amazing. So now plug your company that's kind of sponsoring this journey of yours to helping you get all these visas and doing some of these flight arrangements.
Yeah.
Tell us
So I
about that.
mean, yeah, thank you. I mean, I've got a couple of great ones. There's iVisa that has just been invaluable to me. I mean, they're like I will fly to a country and then I will land and I will have an e-visa in my inbox to the next country. And I just wouldn't have been able to create videos and interview people and also do it. So iVisa is fantastic. They help people get in and out of a lot of difficult countries. And then there's Untamed Borders, which is another critical one, which has helped do some tours in some of the like the harder to reach countries. You're talking about Turkmenistan. They helped me with that. Syria, Somalia, Eritrea. So they're also a fantastic company based out of London, run by a fellow named James. It's been around for like 10, 15 years. So they're very reliable.
Now you're getting sponsored by them, but do you have a rough idea of how much a normal customer would have to pay for some of their services?
Uh,
Ballpark.
Oh, well, I mean, when it comes to iVisa, I mean, the thing is that depending on the country, depending on how difficult it is to achieve a visa, how much manpower it's required, there's a lot of paperwork involved. It can be pricey. I mean, iVisa, I don't know if it's like the cheaper or more expensive option in the pantheon of companies that do this, but I mean, from what I've seen, if you have, let's say, a passport from, let's say, like an EU country, you're trying to go to an African country. I mean, you may charge like a couple $100 plus whatever, the visa cost is. But then you've got other countries that are crazy, like Nigeria, that it's like so expensive to get in. And then the business visa, I think I paid like $400 just for the business visa. And then there's like bribe fees and all this. So that's there's the price varies, and they have an easy form that you can fill out, and they can give you kind of like a quote on their work. And then Untamed Borders, it really depends on how long you go. I mean, if you're there, I was there for 3 days, 4 days. It can run you 1,500, 3,000, 3,500,
Oh, because
depending.
they do a tour.
Yeah, so Untamed Borders, they will help you with like letters of recommendation and things like that because they have people on the ground. Sometimes they'll help you with a visa on arrival. But they are principally the ones who are going to tour you around. They have like on the ground connections. Mostly they specialize in the Middle East and Eastern Africa. So this is kind of their sweet spot.
Did you have any situations where your e-visa or that visa on arrival did not get there in time?
No, they managed to achieve every single visa they set out to do. And okay, there was one, and I don't think they'll mind me saying it because it was no fault of anyone's. It was the Central African Republic, and this was around a time where there was some issues with some Americans trying to get in, like getting in and doing some weird, funny business. Like they were trying to do a business deal with some minerals, and the government didn't like that. So they temporarily kind of like put the kibosh on American visa on arrivals. So the normal circumstances that you would apply for weren't working. So we had to do, they actually used all of their manpower to research all of the embassies in my upcoming trip for me to figure out where I could go to so I could get a visa and letters of recommendation before I arrived. So we ended up getting in, but that was the one rejection that we had, and they didn't tell us why.
Did you not try your Greek passport?
At the time, I didn't, so I'm a Greek citizen, but I didn't have my passport renewed. So that was the problem. I actually had to renew my Greek passport in Greece after I got through most of Africa. So I didn't even have my trump card of my Greek passport until the Middle East.
All right, I'm going to scold you, Michael. You embarked on a trip to go to every country in the world, and both of your passports were not having expiration dates that were way out in the distance. You traveled with basically a soon to be expired Greek passport, for God's
Oh,
sakes.
it wasn't even valid. It was even worse. Well, the part of the problem was that I was technically how would you say, a military, like I didn't serve my military, like 2 years or 18 months.
Your
So
obligation.
there's obligatory military service in Greece, and I couldn't actually have it until I got a waiver because I hadn't lived in Greece. I was raised in the States, right? So they wouldn't give it to me, and I needed to fill out all these forms. I needed to go back to kindergarten and get my grades all the way up to K through 12, all of my tax statements to prove that I hadn't lived in Greece. So they wouldn't basically like handcuff me and send me to the military as soon as I arrived in Greece.
Okay, so you didn't have your Greek passport when you started this journey.
Correct.
Wow. Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
But why? I mean, it's a strange thing because to me, I have 3 active passports and
Yeah.
I would never think about going without them. I mean, it's just like,
Yeah.
it's so useful to have extra passports. And so, especially in what you're trying to do where time is the essence, why did you not, let's say, postpone your trip until you got that damn Greek passport?
Well, by the time I figured when I was going to go and how I was going to do it and everything, I had already made announcements and all that. And we had assumed that we were going to be able to get it much, much sooner. It turned out that it was a nightmare to get it. And the only reason why it was happened so quickly was a number of connections we had. And the Chicago embassy, the Greek embassy, turned out to be very, very helpful in this regard too. But we anticipated being able to get it much, much sooner. And it usually like takes,
A
it
month.
depends on who you know. Yeah.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you a story of somebody I was traveling with who lost, well, actually didn't lose, got their U.S. passport stolen. and went to the United States Embassy in Chile, and they gave her an emergency passport the same fucking day. Amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. Like they
Yeah.
printed it out, and it's an emergency passport that had, I don't know, like 4 or 5 pages, but it's still, you can use it legitimately anywhere. And I was amazed by the service turnaround there. I thought, oh, you're going to be stuck in Chile for at least a week for them to maybe at least a few days, but no, same day service. Amazing.
Yeah. There are definitely a lot of countries where you can, that this the same thing happened to me in Greece. I was coming back on a cruise from Turkey and my passport was stolen. And in the Greek embassy, I got it within, like it was that next day I got it. So embassies that are like maybe not high volume or they prioritize you maybe because you're an American citizen, you're going to get it much quicker. But it's funny thing is that in America, you can sometimes get it. I mean, I think it's like 4 to 6 weeks. They've reduced the time a bit, and they have an online application for renewal, so you don't have to go in now. But if you really, really, really need it, and you show them proof that you need it, you can actually get it the same day in America too.
You're right. Okay. Cool.
Which I actually had to do because my passport was stolen when I was mailing it out to an embassy. It was ripped open, and then they sent me back the envelope without my passport. This was about 4 months before my trip. Yeah. So this is, it feels like like so much has happened, and then when I go back to that, I'm like, man, it was only like a year and a half ago.
It's a lifetime. You've already lived 2 lifetimes, Michael.
Yeah.
That's an amazing story. And so now you're feeling pretty confident, but let's go back to these visa woes and these travel woes. How many of all the 193 countries, United Nations countries, did you use your Greek passport to get in?
Ooh, yeah, that's a really good question.
Approximately 20,
yeah,
30?
Yeah. Okay, well, I use it for most of Europe, if not all of Europe.
So that's about 45 countries or so.
Yep. I use it for some of the Middle East, a little bit of like I use it for Myanmar, a little bit Turkmenistan, I think I use it for, and then I use it for some of South America. So, maybe 60 countries, 70 countries, something like that.
Okay. So had you had it for Africa, you probably would have used it there as well.
I would have, but as it turns out, it would have been filled by the time I would have gotten here. So I would have had to have renewed it again if I was just using my Greek because it's only 32 pages or something like that. So I would have had to have done a pit stop in Greece to get a new one because it's got 3 pages left as it stands right now.
Why can't they give you one on the road? Why do you have to go to Greece?
Well, I mean, I could go, well, we would probably research 1 or 2 embassies that would be okay for them to give it on the same day. But depending on where I was, where it ran out, you'd have to kind of figure out, okay, is that country going to be one of those that can for sure give it to you that same day? And are you there on the weekend? Are you there on the weekday? How is my scheduling playing? I mean, it's just like it adds challenges that I wouldn't have necessarily have foreseen because some of this was actually, I planned like 90% of this and 100% of this and maybe 90% has gone well. But then the 10%, you really have to change things up. And you're there sometimes in a country when you're there. And once you leave, it's like, okay, how am I going to make an adjustment if something goes wrong?
So I have an idea. You know Thor Peterson, the guy who went to all the countries in the world without
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think you should create a new company called Michael and Thor Logistics.com.
Yeah, I think that guy's got a leg up on me. I mean, we did 2 different things for sure, but I mean, traveling without flying, right? That's
but the only difference is that he didn't have the time pressure as much as you did. Right?
Sure.
I mean, he just said he wanted to do it, and it took him 9.5 years. So,
right.
So very different constraints you both had logistical challenges for different reasons, for sure.
So with our combined forces, we can become
this could be a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah.
I see it now.
Exactly. Ivisa will love the competition, I'm sure.
Yes, and so so in Venezuela, I saw you live streaming your Instagram. Yeah. Everything is fine there. By the way, I was living there for 4 months in 1995 or 4, probably when you were born or something like that.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and they were not stopping at red lights either at night back then.
Okay.
So this is like 30 years ago or whatever it was, but it's basically the same. Nothing has changed in Venezuela. It's still just as sketchy as always, but somehow we hope that it will come through. Okay, so bottom line is your last country is going to be the United States?
The US, yeah. I basically the time starts by Guinness Records standards as soon as you step foot on the transportation, the first mode of transportation. So that country that you go to next will be your first country, which was Russia. So I have to end in the place that I started, which is the US.
Okay. So we're looking at an end date sometime in the month of May 2025.
May, June, somewhere around then. Yeah, yeah. May,
Okay.
May would be very nice.
Okay, so late May. Let's just aim for late May 2025. Any particular port of entry for the United States so we can all come and harass you?
Yeah, well, there'll be more details about I guess the week of my arrival and all those sorts of things. But the date not yet, but the time the place will probably be most certainly will be Detroit, where I was raised.
Okay. Oh, wow. You're going to fly. But I mean, there's no direct flights to Detroit from anywhere. So
Yeah.
from any international destination, I'm
We
exaggerating,
we
of course. But in other words,
we know this quite well.
where are you going to be flying from? What's the penultimate country?
It'll be Toronto, so there are plenty from there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. What do you mean? You just walk. You
I
don't need to
could,
fly. You're like
you
from
know,
Canada, you could just, there's that. I remember this is a little fun fact check. Is
yeah.
like, this is a fun fact that says that when I was in Detroit, I learned that it's one of the few places in the United States where you can go south and go to Canada.
Exactly, exactly. Yes, it's a good fact. And it actually, you remember the song Journey Don't Stop Believing, right? There's a
Yeah.
line where it's sung born and raised in South Detroit. And the thing is, South Detroit is Canada. Like South Detroit doesn't exist. And the lead singer is like, "Oh yeah, we wrote it because it just rhymes." It's like, "But you could have said like West Detroit or East." He's like, "No, I like South Detroit." So it's like that we don't have a South Detroit. It's just South Detroit is Windsor,
Windsor.
is Windsor, Canada. So you could walk across, and we used to go across to drink when we were 19, right? So it was like it would be a fun thing for me to just literally walk across the finish line. But then
Thor would be proud of you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I was thinking about this. But then I'm like, I know so many more people in Toronto that I'd love to see anyways. So yeah, I'm gonna go to Toronto.
Yeah, I mean, but still, the bus ride from Toronto to, it's only what, 5 hours to get to Detroit, maybe?
Yeah, it's not so bad. It's not so bad. I don't think there would be. It would probably make their whole career to have somebody walk across with a passport full of every single country. Like what is the protocol for this? How do we handle this? What do we do? Do we detain them? Do we just let them go because no one's ever done this? I don't know. Like I don't know what's going to happen when I get back to the US. I haven't stepped foot on the US soil since Guam. It was Palau to Guam to Micronesia, and I was detained for a couple of hours, but the guy was more amused than he was like worried. He
In
just couldn't.
Guam?
In Guam, yeah.
Okay. Why were you in Guam? Guam is U.S. territory. It's not a country.
Well, that's correct, but it was a layover.
Got it. Okay. And
Yeah.
you had to leave. You got out of the airport, I guess?
I didn't know. It was like a 3 hour layover, and they took the 3 hours to like interrogate me. So it was,
Why? Just because you had all these strange countries on your passport?
yeah, yeah. The
Or is it
conversation,
the long hair?
maybe both. I mean, I get all sorts of looks from the. I mean, there's certain countries just like I just look like a filthy hippie, but
That's pretty much all countries.
yeah. When I went through customs, like I knew based off of their immigration, I knew the woman just looked at it and she's like, okay, well, you're going to have to step over here. And then they took me into a back room and then they're like, we just want to ask you a few questions. And the first question is like, I see that you have some stamps here from countries like, like Iran and like Syria and Lebanon. Like, why were you there? And I'm like, well, look, I'm just going to disclose, like, I've got 3 passports here and I've got pretty much like America's like enemies all right here. So let's just go through them all and I'll tell you the reason why I'm doing it. And I gave him like all my news articles and my Instagram and all that. And after he followed me on Instagram.
Oh,
So
good.
it was good. That was great. Yeah.
Well, if they're watching, hello.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, and then once you get to Canada, I mean, sorry, once you get to the United States and Detroit, any uh, plans besides resting and not moving?
Well, there's no rest for the wicked, and I think I'm among the worst of them. But I do have plans. I have yet to announce exactly what the post-trip endeavors will be, but it will be something that I think will excite a lot of people who have been following my journey. It's set in stone, but we're just kind of finalizing some of the last details before I make a press release. So
When you get there, make sure that you contact me so we can announce it and other people can follow.
oh yeah, well actually, I mean it'll be I think it's going to be in the next 2 weeks, and I'll
Okay,
let you know.
great. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Perfect.
You may know because I may have asked you about this off camera, if you remember way back when. But
Is
in
that
any
when we were talking about nuclear weapons and smuggling them into Russia?
come on, I still have to get back into the country, man. I still have to get there. It's like I got a record to break. It's gonna spoil the whole fun.
Oh
Um,
no, it was the child prostitution thing. That's right.
that's the one, right? Right, right. I mean,
That ringleaders that we're going to be setting up.
exactly, exactly. You got me. Um,
It's probably
I
now, I'm not now going to get demonetized on this.
yeah, it's super prep. You're tanking both of us, man. Yeah, I know. I'll absolutely let you know. I know that my sponsor is planning like a thing that again we haven't quite announced it. It's been planned for like a month, but we haven't announced this yet. It's like there will be an arrival event,
Hmm.
but then there will be something that actually I'm going to be doing for the remainder of the year that relates to the project that I think people are going to be really excited about.
All right. Well, I'm excited too. This is going to be an amazing thing. And there's pretty much no major impediments. Like before, we talked about North Korea, we talked about Sudan, but there's no such country between you and the finish line, correct?
Yeah, there really isn't. I mean, even if there were some delays and such, it's not like I have such a big buffer between when I intend to arrive and when I can break the record that it's like, it's all but certain. The maybe the most challenging country from a safety standpoint is probably Haiti, but there's a route in and out of that, so I'm not terribly concerned about it.
What's your Haiti plan? Are you going to go to, what is it, Port-au-Prince or something like that?
No, no, I'm not flying in there. That's a good way to get kidnapped. It's more it's Cap Haitien, which is kind of like in the northeast near the border of Dominican and Haiti, which is kind of like believe it or not, there are like cruises that still go there. So American Airlines flies in and out. So that's kind of the route that people are taking.
Oh, I see. Okay. Is it
Yeah.
still a really lousy situation in Haiti, I guess?
Yes, it is, and unfortunately, it hasn't gotten much better. That's kind of its own tome of history. But I mean, they've people who have lived like as long as I have lived like 3 or 4 lifetimes because of how much shit has gone on in that poor country. Natural disasters,
Yeah.
prison.
So you'll be near the place where those famous satellite images of the island, which is split 50-50 between Haiti and the Dominican Republic. And you'll see that
Yeah,
on one side, the Dominican Republic side is full of rainforest, and then it's denuded and completely nothing on the Haiti side because they've chopped down
yeah.
all their trees. So you'll be kind of near that little point, correct?
I will be. Yeah, I mean, I
Are
think
you
it's
going
about
to denude a little bit of the Dominican Republic side before you leave?
just to kind of even it out a bit. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. Well, they don't even I guess it's very difficult to cross the border by land. That's why I'm not doing it. I actually have to fly from the Bahamas there. I can't cross over land from Dominican like to Haiti.
Oh, its border is closed.
The border is kind of like I think it's closed to anyone but merchants, like Dominican merchants. But because there is trading between the two countries, but in terms of tourism, I don't think Dominican Republic wants the liability of allowing tourists through. So, and if they do let them through, I don't know if they'd let them back in. So I actually have to fly from Santo Domingo to Bahamas, then to Cap Haitien, and then back to Bahamas, and then make my way onward.
Michael Zervos, I don't want to take too much more of your time. I just want to congratulate you on getting very close to the finish line. We're not going to pop the champagne yet because lots of things can happen, but the bottom line is that nothing major seems to stop your way. So I really want to congratulate you. It seems like about 7 years ago when you and I met face to face in Côte d'Ivoire, but it was only probably a year ago when it actually happened.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
A little bit more. I remember that was February 2024, I guess.
Yeah. It was really early on in my trip. We were having beers in the
I think
pool.
you only had like 16 countries down, something like that. I can't remember.
Maybe
But
even less. Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, amazing. Here you are. Total country count right now is?
We are at 173 as of in 2 days. It'll be 173. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Yeah.
And remind people where to find you. I'll put the links in the show notes, but just verbally.
Yeah, you can find me at the Project Cosmos on Instagram and on TikTok, and then my website is project-cosmos.com.
Wonderful. Congratulations again. Early congratulations, but we're not going to get cocky.
Right. Yes, that's the height of hubris. Greeks have a history with arrogance, so I got to check that.
Okay.